Hey!
Hi.
There you go, that was easy. We're going to do 3 videos on books that we read together, or rather I read them, she listened.
Yep, I did stay awake.
The first book that I read was
Captive Universe by Harry Harrison. It's a classic sci-fi book that was written, 1960s? And really sort of tackles the idea of loyalty to religion and following procedure for the hell of it, I think would be its main thrust.
Yeah, tradition for tradition's sake.
Yeah, very much so. To be honest, I can't remember huge amounts of the book because it's been a couple of months now since we finished it. Sorry about that. And to be honest, we couldn't really talk too much about it without spoiling huge swathes of the plot. Yeah, it starts out as one thing.
We follow what appears to be an Aztec tribe set in Aztec times.
In a valley.
In a valley. They're cut off from the rest of the world. And we follow one chap as he's running from one village to the next, being hunted by one of their gods, who's very much real and...
yeah, bloodthirsty.
Bloodthirsty.
And for the first, certainly third of the book, it is about this Aztec-esque environment and people. And it's pretty damn clear fairly early on that they're not Aztecs. These people are blonde-haired and blue-eyed.
They're fair-skinned.
They're fair-skinned. And already you're sitting there going, hold on, what's going on? This isn't right. And yet they've got all the Aztec culture and belief system in place. So already, I mean, you know it's a Harry Harrison, you know it's a sci-fi, you know there's going to be some commentary on it. But very little is given away as to what is actually going on, unless you're really unfortunate and you get one that has a spoiler cover.
Is there a spoiler cover?
There are spoiler covers out there, yes. And then the second part of the book, because I would say it's in 3 parts. Yeah. The second part of the book starts dealing with some of the, oh, what the hell?
Yeah, this is the other side of the story.
Yeah, and what's kind of really going on.
Well, what we think really is going on.
Well, there is that little detail. And then we get to the third part of the story where obviously everything needs sorting out and change needs to happen.
And the final revelations come out.
And the final
revelations.
What
actually is going on.
Yeah. You know, but to discuss all that is major spoiler territory. And I think to go into this with kind of a, yeah, I know this is sci-fi, I know this is not everything that these first few pages tell me it's going to be.
It's about 50 pages.
Yeah. I think you need to do that to actually appreciate how nauseating this setup is.
Yeah, how religion is used to control a population from thinking outside the box, from being independent, from trying to
be free.
Ask questions.
Free. Yeah. This book is not nice to organised religion. It is not nice to blind faith. But then those 2 things are not great anyway. I think my only qualms I have, and a lot of this is down to the culture that is used, is women do not come across very well in this book. They are either part of the Aztec village and as such have a role that they must play.
Very much so.
Or they are part of the part B plot of the book and for various reasons are also not allowed to be...
yeah, they're just as bad, really.
Yeah.
Well, not bad, but, you know, they're just as subjective.
Yeah, very much so. Again, I can't go into details without spoiling, but certainly because of the nature of this world building, women are not represented very well. But then that's not the story being told at this point. That would be the next part of the story.
Yeah.
As it were, which I don't think there is.
And I would think, due to the cultures involved, had it been a female lead, the story just would have been implausible because of how the females are treated. In the case of they wouldn't have given her a second chance to do anything. Whereas because he was a male in this society, he was able to say the things he did and do the things he did because being male, he had slightly more free reign than a female would have done in that society.
Very much so. And there is a reason why the Aztec society is used as well. It's not arbitrary, there's an actual reason for it, which is why you can't just turn and say, oh, well, he could have used another religion or culture to have female. And it's like, that's not what he was going for at this point.
But yeah, so the story flows quite nicely. But for the first third, you're thinking, what's going on? There just seems to be a day in the life of an Aztec peasant having a miserable time, really. And, okay, there just seemed to be this actual real god wandering around killing people. But beyond that, you're thinking, okay, how is this science fiction? Where's this going to go? And you have this huge idea about the fact, well, they're trapped in this valley. They're closed off from the rest of the world. Yeah, I know where this is going. I can see where we're going. No, you're wrong. You're so wrong. So we go into part B of the story, which is very sort of classic sci-fi. I mean, various descriptions of the locations, the clothes, the people. It's straight out of Doctor Who of the era,
very
isn't
much,
it?
yeah.
You could see the wobbly sets and everything's in silver or spray painted silver at least, and everything, isn't it?
He's so rude about 1970s Doctor Who.
Well, it's not just Doctor Who, isn't it? But it's all that era. You had a certain feel of 1970s sci-fi.
Yep. White corridors.
All that.
Yeah.
But as our character finds more and more about the world he's in, you go on this journey with him. It all unfolds in a really interesting way. Somewhat frustrating because he's thwarted at every turn. It's like, for goodness sake, we just need to get over this damn thing. But people stick to this religious dogma and they won't think outside the box. They won't step outside of those lines, which obviously with parallels to the real world are quite frightening and pertinent, particularly in what's been going on around the world today.
Yeah, very much so.
Whether it's COVID or politics or whatever, it's... I believe this because religion says it's this, and I'm going to behave like it too.
Very much so.
And of course, by the time we get to the third part, the story does take a big uphill direction. It really does pick up, and I think the third part flowed the quickest, I think.
There's certainly answers come thick and fast. There's like one revelation after another revelation, and then it's like, okay, this happens because... As
we've been skirting around, there are lots of spoilers in here, and to really talk about them, we're going to have to say spoiler zone.
So if you don't want to know anything, please, thank you very much for watching and turn off this video now.
Yeah, we do recommend reading it first and then coming back here.
There's spoilers.
Yeah, they'll spoil it for you, literally as the name suggests. Okay, you've been warned.
Right, this is it. Spoilers.
So we follow a character called Chimmel, who is the son of the opening character who gets killed by a god, apparently. And we follow him as he's living his Aztec life. He's got questions. He wants to find out a bit more about the world he's in, and of course he gets shouted down and beaten up every time he tries to. But he realises there's more to the valley than meets the eye. But he toes the line, and then things start going horribly wrong. He refuses to marry.
Doesn't want to. Doesn't love the girl. Doesn't see why he should have to. No, he wants a bit more time to carry on being him.
So he runs away, and he hides in a swamp.
Leeches.
And night comes, and night's curfew time. And the god comes out to patrol, because you're not allowed to have people go from one village to the next. And he realises something not quite right about this god. And then he follows it back to where it comes from, and it enters a hidden door in a cave wall somewhere. And he finds himself in a tunnel.
That changes and changes and changes, and he's no longer in the valley. He's suddenly in a nice gleaming white corridor with lights.
And in there are people, the Watchers, who've been watching everything going on in his valley.
Think the Truman Show, but over a whole valley of people.
And these people seem a lot more advanced technologically.
But oh my god, they're backwards.
But they're very backwards. They're under just as much religious control as his people are. It's a different religion, but its hold is just as strong.
Yep, we do this. We don't know why we do this, but this is what we do. And nobody else can do what I do. I do my role, they do their role. And never the two shall mix. So no, I can't help when something goes wrong over there. He's got to do it, because that's his role.
And so we discover this new world that he's in this cliff-faced tunnel. And he discovers that the entire world that he knows, the valley and everything in the cliff, is in an asteroid. They're actually in space. The whole thing's a spaceship. They're a generation ship going from Earth to a far-off distant star.
Because obviously the Earth is hugely overpopulated and, climate change and all that. And we're going to send people. We're going to rescue them. Only, the guy who rescued him was complete and utter twat.
He's some politician from America. We're not going to name names.
Hello, Trump.
But he basically designed everything in his image, in his particular egotistical way.
He is the Grand Maker.
He is the Grand Maker, and he is worshipped by these idiots in these tunnels, really.
Who calls themselves pain on a daily basis, by the way, because...
It's virtuous.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So, big Catholic bashing vibes here as well.
And the Aztec way of life was chosen because it was one that could be easily controlled, particularly through the fear of gods and religion. and that they can get away with murdering their delinquents if they don't toe the line.
So yay for that on cultural representation there.
But of course, being some bigwig in America, actually I don't think it says America, but it might as well have done.
Might as well have been. It was the big power, wasn't it?
Obviously, they've chosen an Aryan race to send off into space.
Yeah, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, because...
So, yeah, it says an awful lot about humanity and those who do get the chance to send humans into the stars. What type of humans get sent into the stars?
Yeah, who do we get to pick? Who do we get to choose? And I think that's something that a lot of sort of survival films forget, that, they try and make out that it's going to be an equal choice. And it's like, who are we kidding? We ain't going to get any say in who gets to be the survivor of the human race at all. It will be chosen by the guys at the top. And if the guys at the top are racist, misogynist gits...
Just kick the camera, so we might have moved a bit. That was that revelation, which is, I thought, really poignant, particularly as for what was going on right now in this world.
I think you have to remember this has just happened, this was written early 70s. The Vietnam War is still very fresh in Harry Harrison's mind at this point. He's certainly seen how the big Western countries have abused their power and money to other cultures.
And of course, then the big revelation comes up that the Watchers are very much aware, or at least the lead Watcher is very much aware that they've reached their destination. But of course, he's quite happy with how things are going. He's the bigwig.
We like the status quo. We're going to stay like this, thank you very much. So we'll just carry on.
So we're just floating through the stars forever.
Meanwhile, obviously Chimmel's discovered, hold on, these are my people that are being killed. These are my people that are being not allowed to have any questions, who are not allowed to make their own choices. Who are you to decree that? No, I'm going to free my people.
They also have a lifespan of about 40 years.
Yeah, whereas obviously the Watchers are...
Hundreds
of years. They've got a cushy little number, they really have.
And the final revelation, which I think is probably more shocking of all, is the two separate tribes in the valley are two halves of a intelligence, which is why interbreeding wasn't allowed and the god patrolled between the two. And Chimmel was actually a result of an illegal dalliance between the two.
Yeah, which meant suddenly the children that were born from the joining of two villages were questioning generation. They were sitting there going, hold on, what about this? What's about that? Because suddenly all the DNA was allowed to click into place.
Yeah, they were having the intelligence finally.
So hello eugenics as well.
So there's an awful lot packed. It's only about 180 pages long, this book.
Yeah, in very packed font, by the way. We're not talking 1990s printing here. Yeah.
But no, it deals an awful lot of the human condition and just what people can do if they can get away with it.
Yeah. So, obviously Harry Harrison is anti-eugenics, he's anti-colonialism, and he's pointing out these flaws in this book in a very brutal way. This book does not pull its punches whatsoever.
Certainly the first 50 pages when we're just living in this Aztec environment, it's brutal. It's a very harsh way of life, and there's a young lad who saw something and he says he saw this thing. They end up trepanning him to cure him of his demons.
Yay, well done, thank you very much. And it's pretty graphic, and then in section B, Chimmel, his sheer frustration with the Watchers, and he's taken one of the Watchers hostage, who happens to be a female.
It's the first person he meets as well.
It is the first person you meet, so you tend to latch on to the first one you meet in a strange environment. But his frustration is shown by him lashing out, and he hits her quite hard on a couple of occasions, and obviously that's part of he's been brought up in this very violent society, but it's also his, I just want friggin' answers. Just tell me the truth. Tell me what is going on. Because I have to imagine he's also terrified at this point, because he's in a completely alien environment to everything he's ever known, and nothing makes any sense anymore. And he's got this person in front of him who potentially has all the answers, and she just won't tell him. She literally will not tell him.
So, highly recommend it. I can't remember what I gave it in the end. It was a 4 or 5 stars.
Yeah, it's certainly a book that makes you think. I think some people who've read it and given it very negative reviews on Goodreads haven't actually thought about when it was written, who was writing it, and actually the threads that were being told underneath what seems to be quite a standard sci-fi story. And it's like, no, actually there's a lot more going on in Captive Universe than the reader might take off the page. And I've always said proper sci-fi reflects the period it's written in, and we'll talk about our fears and hopes for the future. Now, obviously, Harrison, having written this at a period which, let's face it, was pretty shitty, his fears are fully on the page for anyone to see. He is very aware that this is a path, yes, as fantastical as you wanted to make it out, but this is a path that we as a people could take, and certain people could abuse their power and do something of a similar vein to others. It's certainly a thinker book, and I like a lot of sci-fi from the 60s and 70s that
makes you think.
Is thinking, you know, it's not trash pulp.
Or just a fun story.
It's actual sci-fi. It is making you question and think about things. And Captive Universe certainly makes you think. And, you know, it's no disservice to reviewers who just like, no, I didn't enjoy it. That's fair dues and all that. You know, you don't have to like a book. But I also think if you want to think about a book, there's too many thinks in that sentence, isn't there? Then this is certainly one way you could sit there and quite happily pick it to pieces and find out really what Harry Harrison is saying.
Yeah, no, very important one. So, there we go. Captive Universe, have you read it? Have you read anything by Harry Harrison? Have you even heard of Harry Harrison?
Yeah, you don't see him on the Waterstone shelves, do you? Please
Nope.
go and check him out.
If you're familiar with the film Soylent Green, he wrote the book that was based off of. So, you know, there.
You know, and he certainly is a author that makes you question.
So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that down below. But as usual, if you've nothing nice to say, then please keep them to yourself. Thank you, and until next time, see you later.
Bye.